That was one of the peaceful protests that are breaking out across the nation. The one you just saw there was in Chicago. Now, the MAGA Republican governors, and just like Donald Trump, are terrified of the peaceful protests, and they want to try to escalate matters by sending in the National Guard, by threatening harm to the protesters, because they're hoping to provoke incidents so that they can try to justify their fascist tactics across the country and in the various states. Like, look how terrified these MAGA Republicans are. You have Governor Henry McMaster of South Carolina saying South Carolina's law enforcement will not tolerate lawless behavior associated with this weekend's nationwide planned protest, the No Kings protest. Have a nice weekend! Exclamation point. Like, who talks like that? Who talks like that? You should encourage and want to inspire people to have their First Amendment rights peacefully, of course. As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, goes, lots of threats from the tough guys today. Or how about these signs on the fencing in front of Bunker Boy's White House right now? These are the signs in front of the White House as they put up gates so that protesters can't get close to the White House. They don't want to interrupt Donald Trump's dictator parade. It says, the sign says, fence jumpers will be prosecuted. And apparently it's a recycled sign from Lollapalooza. So then, of course, Florida's MAGA Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, who MAGA doesn't even like because he's not Trumpy enough for MAGA. But Ron DeSantis goes on this show and he's, in the past 2 days, he's basically encouraging people to drive their vehicles through protesters and kill them. And he's like, in Florida, we've got, we protect people who drive their vehicles through protesters and run over people. This is how terrified they are of the peaceful protest. This is the type of scare tactics they use. Listen to what DeSantis has to say.
And we also have a policy that if you're driving on one of those streets and a mob comes and surrounds your vehicle and threatens you, you have a right to flee for your safety. And so if you drive off and you hit one of these people, that's their fault for impinging on you. You don't have to sit there and just be a sitting duck and let the mob grab you out of your car and drag you through the streets. You have a right to defend yourself in Florida.
Because they're terrified of this. Like, look at what's going on in Los Angeles, California. Here are some of the protesters dancing at the LA protests. Here, play this clip. So you have Governor DeSantis of Florida. You saw at the beginning, you have Governor Henry McMaster of South Carolina. Here you have Governor Greg Abbott deploying thousands of Texas National Guard troops across Texas in preparation for the No Kings protest. Play this clip.
Governor Greg Abbott is doubling down on his promise to send out Texas National Guard troops ahead of the No Kings protests across the state.
Fox 4's Paige Ellenberger live in Dallas, where there are multiple demonstrations planned for this weekend. Paige.
Brandon, Lauren, good morning. Thousands of Texas National Guard troops will be deployed this weekend. It's a similar move we've seen taken by President Donald Trump in California during anti-ICE protests in the Los Angeles area. Governor Greg Abbott says he supports the president's decision to deploy troops and is doing so here in Texas as a precaution. With dozens of protests against the Trump administration's handling of immigration scheduled across the state this weekend, the governor went on Fox News to defend his reasoning for using state force.
There were protests without any property being damaged or anybody being hurt. And people are free to protest if they don't harm anything. However, because of the possibility, because the size of the crowds could grow large, because things could get out of control, we want to make sure that we have the assets in place where we're going to be able to quickly respond.
Abbott deploying 5,000 National Guard troops as well as 2,000 state troopers to monitor protests tomorrow. It is unclear exactly how many will go where. At least 8 protests are scheduled here in the Dallas area for tomorrow. Organizers reminding demonstrators to remain peaceful.
And again, I just think about Overwhelmingly, the protests are peaceful and they're joyous, and there's music and there's dancing. Here, this is the enormous peaceful protest that we saw pretty much throughout Los Angeles. Most of it looked like this. Play this clip. I found this interesting. You had the San Antonio Police Chief McManus and the San Antonio Mayor Nirenberg were saying that they were never even informed by Governor Abbott about the deployment of the National Guard, who just rolled in to their city. Here, play this clip.
Mayor, why not get ahead of this? I asked the chief earlier because he says if they get deployed, the guards, then he'll reach out. You know, why not be ahead of it, be proactive, say, hey, we
I'm not going to speak for the chief, but I'll give him credit. We weren't given this information.
Yeah.
We had to go look for it. And so we're going to try to stay as coordinated as possible. You know, I think we have great law enforcement at every agency, but they're under command of somebody else. And so here in San Antonio, we have the best police department in the country under the command of the right person. He's going to do everything we can to protect our local community and our local citizens.
And to show you again the fear tactics that's being used by the MAGA and like the MAGA sheriffs, this is the MAGA Florida sheriff, Wayne Ivey. This is his speech to the people. He threatens to kill anti-Trump protesters. Here, play this clip.
If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop.
And again, what they're trying to do here is escalate. They want to provoke protesters. They're trying to inspire violence so that they could engage in exactly what they're saying. They want to utilize their fascist playbook. They want people to play into that. So they're intentionally being provocative and escalating things. Here's, again, MAGA Republican Governor Ron DeSantis going on Fox and showing how scared he is of the No Kings protest.
About 1,800 of them are planned, including more than 75, they're claiming, in Florida itself. And that's the same day Trump is planning the military parade in D.C., Flag Day, Army's 250th anniversary celebration, which in and of itself, that's driving the left crazy. They hate any display of patriotism or celebrating of the military. They can't stand that. So, Governor, how are you preparing for these supposedly 75 protests across your state?
Our folks are ready at the state level. I mean, I think, as you know, the local police will be the first to respond if anything goes wrong. County sheriffs will be there as well. We have our state law enforcement on standby. They'll be ready to go, whether it's the Highway Patrol, whether it's Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And then we do have National Guard who will be ready. But I got to tell you, we've dealt with this pretty effectively in the past. I mean, one of the things they're doing in Los Angeles, yes, you see the looting, you see all that. They also just take over streets. Look, if you don't have a permit to take over streets, you can't just interrupt traffic. The Hamas people tried to do this when they were doing that a year or so ago. They tried it in Miami. They were kicked off the road in 13 minutes. They tried it in Central Florida. Our Highway Patrol got them out of there in 11 minutes. So you're going to be held accountable. The inmates are not going to run the asylum. So it's a bad decision to try to pull that nonsense in Florida.
So you ever sit down to work and your brain just won't cooperate? That was me for so long. I'd find myself getting distracted, scrolling through social media, just totally unable to focus. Especially with a job like this where I need to stay locked in, productive, creative, and on top of the news. Distractions aren't just annoying, they can derail everything. Then I found Brain FM and it's been a game changer. Brain FM is an app built for anyone seeking to boost productivity. They create science-backed music that syncs brain patterns, helping you focus better, relax deeper, and sleep easier. I use their deep work and creative modes daily. It's like flipping a switch in my brain. There's even a turbo mode specifically designed for ADHD support. And this isn't hype. Brain FM is the only music company supported by a National Science Foundation grant and just published a peer-reviewed study showing their patented tech improves attention and brainwave synchrony. Unlock your brain's full potential free for 30 days by going to brain.fm/Meidas. That's brain.fm/Meidas. That's MEIDAS for 30 days free.
And I just love this scene right here. You have Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters looking at the National Guard. And like, there's only like 100 National Guard who are actually operationalized at this point because there's no place to put the other the 4,000 National Guard that Donald Trump federalized in Los Angeles. Watch Maxine Waters right here looking at these National Guard troops as they're like peaceful protests out there. It's like, what the hell are you doing? What are these weapons of war that you have? Here, play this clip.
Yeah, what are you going to do? You going to shoot some kid who's afraid of you and run? You going to shoot an elected official? If you shoot me, you better shoot straight. I don't know why you're in my city. You did, the governor was not contacted.
Take a look at this large immigration protest, peaceful, outside of the fan fest at the College World Series in Omaha, not blocking traffic, peaceful, drums and chants. Take a look right here.
No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate.
And of course, we see Donald Trump trying to provoke things as well. Trump this week saying, when they spit, we hit. When the protesters spit, we're going to hit him. Here, play this clip.
When they spit at people, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit and worse. You know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military.
Or Donald Trump saying that anybody who protests will be met with heavy force. He's not saying if you're like a violent protester. He goes, if you protest his military parade, you will be met with violent force. Play this clip.
Celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protester wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force.
And then Donald Trump basically saying that there's going to be no time limit to when the National Guard will leave Los Angeles or other places in the country, whenever he wants. Play this clip.
National Guard be in California indefinitely. How long will they be there until you think?
Until there's no danger. It's easy. Look, it's common sense. You ask me that question. When there's no danger, they'll leave. You would have had a horrible situation had I not sent them in. Horrible. You'd be reporting on a lot of death and a lot of destruction that's not going to take place. I think if you look, every night it got less and less. They were met with very strong force, the bad people, the bad, sick people that do what they do. But these are paid people in many cases, not in all cases, but in many cases. And they really are, they're agitators.
Now, contrast that to what Governor Newsom has said about the peaceful protests. Here, play this clip. He said, be stubbornly peaceful. Play this clip.
Can we once and for all just dispense with this notion that this is all about going after dangerous criminals? 2 days ago in Oxnard, California, there were ICE agents running through strawberry fields, people that have been working those fields for over 20 years. I met with a 12-year-old boy whose mom and dad were detained. He was left with nobody. sitting there weeping and crying, tears pouring down his face. Now today, just today in Los Angeles, reports are coming back that caregivers, babysitters entrusted with children and toddlers in parks in Los Angeles had ICE agents rush on them in unmarked cars and take these children from the caregivers, detaining these babysitters. Imagine being a parent of one of those children and getting a call about what just happened. Any parent should be outraged, but all of us should be outraged by that cruelty, by that conduct, by the Trump administration. Tomorrow, he is going to have a birthday, a vulgar display of weakness. And millions of people, I imagine millions of people are going to get out and protest. I ask you, if you're filled with rage, as I am, by what is going on in the militarization of great American cities, that when you're out protesting, you do it peacefully. Do not play in to Donald Trump. What he wants is chaos. That's the reaction that he hopes to get from us, from this cruelty. Let's not give him what he wants. Let's exercise our constitutionally protected rights, but let's do it peacefully.
And again, contrast that to what they're doing in Texas, where they've deployed National Guard troops to San Antonio and other places. Again, trying to provoke violence. Play this clip.
One by one, Texas National Guard troops were seen arriving in San Antonio, part of the contingent Governor Greg Abbott deployed to counter the growing protests across the state. Hundreds of protesters marched through downtown San Antonio yesterday, demanding an end to ICE raids.
When you see some of the operations that have been happening across the country and here in San Antonio, is that why you're out here?
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. I'm at the point where I don't even want to eat because all my people who are getting picked up, and it's sickening.
The nationwide protests are being driven partly by what President Trump has called his administration's aggressive immigration policy. The goal is to arrest nearly 3,000 undocumented immigrants per day. Videos on social media show ICE agents detaining several men in Dallas shortly after their immigration hearings were dismissed. In San Antonio, children and their families were zip-tied at the federal courthouse. In Omaha, Nebraska, more than 70 migrants were taken into custody at a meat packing plant, including several family members of Supervisor Stephanie Favila.
The looks on everybody's faces, it was just scared.
And near Oxnard, California, federal agents chasing migrants working in the fields.
The intended effect is to cause fear.
Immigration attorney Jonathan Ryan says the stepped-up enforcement is unprecedented.
Many people are finding their lives upended because they can't go out, they can't take their kids to school. It is causing real terror.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
We've seen under this last week some operations that have been working to bring in criminals that have been out on our streets for far too long. Our HSI and ICE individuals have been out conducting operations with our government partners.
We are expecting a court ruling from California very soon on whether the National Guard and the Marines can act as civil law enforcement for the planned protests on Saturday. As you may remember, President Trump sent in the National Guard against the wishes of California Governor Gavin Newsom.
There you have it. MAGA is absolutely terrified. And just think about that clip I showed you of DeSantis, where he's encouraging people to run over the protesters. You heard him in his own words. Crazy stuff. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.